Good evening, everyone. My name is Amit Kumar. I am from the Google Cloud team. I lead Google's digital startup business in India. I live in Gurgaon, but I'm joining you from Bangalore today, which I think is fitting tribute to my industry and is a natural place for all things startup in India. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your valuable time. Let me start by talking about why we are meeting today. We are meeting here for the Gen AI Exchange Hackathon. The Gen AI Exchange Hackathon aims to use AI to unlock business and societal opportunities in India. With support from Google, Meti Startup Hub, and Startup India, it brings together developers, enterprises, ecosystem partners to enable and empower participants with knowledge, tools, and mentorship. We want to also thank iSpirit for the valuable partnership on this initiative. Like I said, my name is Amit Kumar. I'm part of the Google Cloud team. And today I have the pleasure of inviting a very old friend of mine, someone I have looked up to and worked with in the past, Jasminder Singh Gulati. Jas, as I would call him during the conversation, and as he's known amongst all his friends, he's a seasoned technology veteran with 28 years of industry experience. He has held key leadership positions at global tech giants like Broadcom and Microsoft. His experience spans sales, marketing, delivery, with a focus on international markets and global services. Before founding NowFloats, Jas served as a VP and head of global delivery at Broadcom, where he was responsible for establishing and growing revenue from services and products. Prior to that, Jas was at the same company as myself, which is Microsoft. He held various roles at Microsoft, including the Director of International Markets at Microsoft Global Services and also Director of Operations and Strategy. His earlier career began at TCS, where he contributed to the development of India's first global software product for the financial services industry. Beyond his professional accomplishment, Jas is also an active investor and mentor to startups. He works very closely with the Citizen Stack and the Government of India. He's very passionate about technology and enjoys exploring books, heritage, and vintage items. Jas, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Amit. And it's been years we've known each other. So yeah, it's just weird to hear the long introduction for me, knowing that we all know each other very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jas. Jas, AI is transforming our lives in ways we have only started to comprehend. Google launched the Gen AI Exchange Hackathon to help nurture the next generation of AI startups and innovation. So my question to you is, I would like your views on how do you envision the convergence of the India stack and generative AI shaping the future of technology and social impact in India over the next few years?
Certainly, and obviously, thank you for having me here, and all the supporters that you have. Google clearly is one of our key winners from the India stack that we see, and in many ways we work very closely with both the Indian private companies and international companies like yourself, who are really persistently global in their knowledge, and all the stuff that we drive for you, with you, along with you in India has been obviously very, very helpful and very, very important both for the corporate rules and all the wins that we've had together. India Stack is certainly a very broad topic. And today I represent iSpirit, where I've been a founder member for over 10 years, just before I launched my own company, and subsequently Reliance acquired it in 2019. So India Stack has really come a long way. I know you want to focus on Gen AI. I'll get there very soon, but it's very important to hear kahan se hum shuru hue, where did we come from, and where have we reached. So in many ways, Aadhaar is a very fundamental block of India Stack. Our ability to now almost bring the whole country onto Aadhaar and have a verifiable, identifiable, contactless national level identity is a very large fundamental building block on which everything has come, right? And so will generative AI. So from Aadhaar, which we had some missteps early years, about 10 years back. But I recall that all of us were in a room in 2012 when Aadhaar was about to just take off. We just won a battle at the Supreme Court to make sure Aadhaar becomes a part of our fundamental rights, which it is. But it had not really taken off. I think 2012 se 14 we just were quite stunned, and where we stand today, it's just mind-boggling that even we imagined it would happen that way. And if you were to look at the UPI stack, which I would now call it above the Aadhaar stack, though there is a bunch of things we did in identity, which includes the DigiLocker and all the eKYC and other stuff. But let's stay with Aadhaar as a fundamental thing to make it easy. Let's use financial UPI as another easy metaphor, which everybody knows as the audience, what is happening in UPI, Google Pay being one of the largest incumbents for us in the country. So UPI then connected your Aadhaar with your bank and was able to transact very freely in financial ways. So in many ways, we didn't need a card to be provisioned. We did not need trust to be identified. We gave an incentive for the banks to do what is called eKYC. If there is Amit Kumar who works in Google and lives in Gurgaon, says who he is, it's all verifiable in a non-data compromising way. And I'll come to that in a second, because that's another fundamental block of AI. So if you see Aadhaar, you see UPI on top, and then I think we are on V3 version of it, where we have the first few successes of, call it Sept18, which is, account aggregator, which means today you can go to Ind Money, or you can go to Grow or Zerodha, while you can start transact your mutual funds and transact your commodities. You can see all your bank accounts. No other country, I think, has that ability, that today every bank shares that information in a very confidential way for all of us to be financially very aware of our assets. So call that layer account aggregator, call it Sept18. That has given right to open credit enablement. If the two banks have anyway spoken, to give you your financial report across your asset classes, बैंक हो गए आपके, stock हो गए, आपका insurances हो गई, आपके bank accounts में पैसे कितने हैं, आपके mutual funds हो गया. If we have been able to do that, obviously the logical reason is one bank can talk to the other bank and say, is Amit credit worthy? What is his CIBIL score? Can I share that so that Amit can now see, can I get 2 bank loans at a better price? So again, the consumer is always going to be at the heart of what we are doing. So this phase of ONDC, which is open network for e-commerce, the phase of OCEN, which is network enablement, Sept18 is the third layer. Your question is the fourth layer question. And I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but you are the fourth layer answer, which is generative AI or India Stack. Kahan pe, where are they coming together? Now, certainly it's a work in progress, but I can certainly say we've come a long way. Very freakily, if I was to tell your audience, and I don't know how many people are here, but the work on AI on top of India Stack, almost is 5 years old. It predates even ChatGPT, which means sometimes we as a team also get validated. Kya hum theek kar rahe hain. So, you all need that, right? In the VC world, we call it price discovery, but it's sometimes important to get validation, like Google Pay validated UPI. So, we love the fact that you guys are doing so well on Google Pay in India, because it's validation ho gaya, international company. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Google Pay only runs in India very well, right? I don't think in many countries do that. So I think it's beautiful to see where the countries and where people like you, Google, and other private sector and government have come together. So to answer the India Stack and AI stuff, we will have, and this is a developer audience, I'm assuming we can get into some tech stuff. So if you look at the fundamentals of AI, there are broadly 4 or 5 things which collaborate to make AI be AI. Okay, the largest could be machine learning, that you let a machine learn patterns itself, understand patterns, and spawn other patterns. But that will not happen without data. So data ke bagair to machine learning will not survive very well. So you need very robust structured data. And then you have all these other things like large language models and inferences and all the other things that AI does. But if you see in these building blocks, uh, what is happening right for India stack and India? Data हमारा almost सबसे ज़्यादा है. We are fortunately 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion people. We are very fortunately a digital first country. No other country does that many digital, not even transactions. Not that many people are so digital in the world like we are. I'm just coming back from Patna, where I do my digital Desh, which is something people can see on digitaldesh.in. We last week we found somebody in Muzaffarpur spending over 7.5 hours on a Sunday on his mobile phone, and that's the cover of the digital Desh book. This guy's phone, and he uses 4 hours of Instagram. And this is a guy who's a two-wheeler salesman in Muzaffarpur. Just to give you a background of Muzaffarpur, India's still we are still not a developed nation. We will be in 2047. Within our undeveloped nation, I think we are developed, but let's just use the rhetoric of the world. Within that, Bihar is one of the, probably the not the best states. Within that, this is a small piece of area which has very low GDP, whatever the reasons, not political. Let's say there is low GDP. Having that guy spend 8 hours on his mobile phone, having the same phone as you and me, Amit, is the amount of data being created in this country is of enormous, it's of enormous scale. So luckily, as a country, data capture ho raha hai. Even the fact that you're liking a reel versus the other reel is data, right? Machine learning is another thing which is going to work on this data. What is happening in AI is we are at the stage of making sure the AI is responsible. We are at the stage of saying data किसी का compromise नहीं होना चाहिए to work on these language model or to work on these data when the ML is actually learning the patterns or deep learning data. There should be no compromise. So we are at that stage. And again, India is one of the few countries which has a DPDP Act. We are the first country in the world which passed a privacy law. It was passed because of AI. So it's all building towards AI and generative AI. Generative AI has a lot of guardrails which need to be kept in mind as a country. So I think we are at that stage now where data bhi hai, machine learning bhi hai, smart log bhi hai, paise bhi hai, intent bhi hai, और आप जैसी कंपनियां भी हैं. So I think we are in a very wonderful, as a broad strokes, where AI is heading in the country. We are in a very nicely positioned corner.
Thank you, Jess. Amazing story and nice perspective. Let me take a step back and ask you about the India stack. I think it's a revolutionary concept, revolutionary technical stack. And anything like that, anything revolutionary always has opportunities to do better. And given we are talking to a developer audience, where do you think our developers should focus their energies on where they can make an impact both to the stack as well as to India?
Okay, great. So, obviously, everything that I say is of public knowledge and is available in public domain. And I'm assuming our topic is absolutely limited to India stack. We will go very fine. We'll go very thin. I will not say कि India में, इन चीजों की जरूरत है. We need a new cryptocurrency. We'll not go into the large macro white spaces of the country. Though India stack does associate itself with almost all the big macro white spaces. But so for your developers, I think, for the people listening in, I think India stack gives a very quick access and orientation to all the large problems. So if you want to, let's say some of your developers want to, let's say, write a new something on health stack, which, let's say, gives Amit and Jas the same, allows Amit and Jas to compare insurances, let's say from hospitals, which we have never done traditionally. Now, you can do it today from India because hospitals now have the have passed a regulation that they can be insurance providers. Now, this cutting edge information on top of India Stack, which is now available as health stack IDs to everybody, the Ayushman Bharat and the Swasth platform of the government, the developers, the people who are going to make the change have to tune themselves in first. All these things are public limited, like all our AI stack, APIs, interfaces, training models, our guardrails, our white papers, they're all on depa.world. Okay, if you go to, what is DEPA is data encryption and protection architecture that we have. It's classic developer speak. I mean, वो developers के अलावा किसी को पल्ले भी नहीं पड़ती है, if I may say that line. So it is absolute of urgency for developers to be on top of India Stack because everything is published there. We've seen it now over almost 12 years. If I tell you the stories, I mean, we birthed not only a Google Pay, not Google, we birthed the Google Pay, we birthed the Phone Pay, we've got, Paytm becoming what it is. We really spawned, we made, Zerodha what it is to some extent. Even Jar, which sells digital gold out of Bangalore, that's where you are. Sorry, it's an investee company, so I'll plug in. I mean, even they are at about, 200 crores of gold being sold in this country on top of the digital stack. अगर उनके पास आधार ना होता, अगर वो वेरीफाई नहीं कर सकते कि अमित अमित है, तो आज इतनी ज्यादा इनोवेशन स्पॉन नहीं होती. फॉर डेवलपर्स, everything is available. I've given one hint, which is depa.world, which is very AI, but there's just so much happening on India Stack. If they were to just find the resources online, all of them are published. There are enough white papers. I think they will get not only guidance, they will actually get the interfaces to the APIs as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Jess. A very nice answer. You mentioned that you want to stay away from the macro part, but I want to bring you back there. Maybe a couple of minutes for our audience on where you see the macro opportunities. You mentioned digital currency, etc.
So I think macro, let's make it easier for your audience. Macro, may we all know financial inclusion, finance, access to credit, startups, and I think we are in a very good shape there. But I think health is a macro opportunity. I think digital banking is still a big macro opportunity. Of course, that's also finance, but it's a large opportunity. I think education is getting totally disrupted. I think एक education का stack भी हम लिखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Health stack तो आपको बता ही दिया मैंने. So there's a bunch of things where work is under play. We've just spawned India's global, do you remember the ISO 9000? The standards. You remember, you and I go to the US, sare pins or, when you go to Home Depots, you get exactly the same standard nail in any of America. You get the same circuitry, you get it's a very standardized country. There are lots of standards. I'm making it trivial, but there are TCP/IP is a standard. Technology, HTML is a standard. India is spawning a standards organization. We've just created one. There's a lot of work to be done there. We are spawning a standards organization of our own with AI and technology standards so that we can now build the next TCP/IP for the world. Because all these great technologies have been built in colleges, in universities and institutions in the Western world. And we are at that stage where our institutions are growing up and becoming these big places for, how we can lead the rest of the world with these technologies and these, India first innovations. And I'll leave you with the thought that every time we used to go to the Western world, fly into Germany or London or Los Angeles or New York, Amit, you and I would say, ये इंडिया में नहीं होता यार, ये काश इंडिया में होता, ये तो बिल्कुल नहीं होता इंडिया में. I think the time has come where the reverse is going to start happening. I think people are going to fly down to Bangalore and say, यार इनके डॉक्टर्स तो 24 घंटे अवेलेबल होते हैं, यार ये क्या है, ट्रैफिक तो दिख रहा है, बट मेरे को तबीयत खराब है तो I can go to a doctor. Haram, ये क्या? So you have to start understanding what had worked for this country and pick only those things. If you are going to get confused on bijli pani issues, you will miss out that in US you cannot walk into a doctor. So we'll have to switch what we can give to the world and what has worked for us. So that's an example of where next white space is. I think we'll export a lot of our culture. I think we'll export. I mean, for example, you're close to your family. US में there is a clear loneliness issue. Why can't we export a model from India where you can knock and, Amit, can I have dinner at your place tonight without asking you? अब वो Western world में नहीं कर सकते. So I'm saying even esoterically, we are going to lead. and you just have to tune in, right? Who had thought even 10 years back that आप एक कुछ करेंगे और सामने गाड़ी आके खड़ी हो जाएगी उबर की? किसने सोचा नहीं था 10 साल पहले, right? So you got to think a little differently.
Great. Thank you, Jas. And you made a passing reference to traffic. Since you're part of the Indian think tank, I do want you to think about traffic and maybe write a standard or something to do with Bangalore traffic. Otherwise, we will definitely have lesser visitors than we do right now.
But Amit, it's surprising that some of the things are not solved. Like, they're just incredibly crazy that we're in 2024 of India. And yes, I think we've solved it by giving internet access and work from home. And that's it's, our demonetization, act. But some things we'll find a lot more government intent to do.
Absolutely. Back to the topic, Jas. So, how do you think generative AI can be utilized to bridge the gap between rural and urban areas in terms of access to essential services and information within the India Stack framework? In other words, how can generative AI be leveraged to empower our marginalized communities and amplify their voices within the digital realm of the India Stack?
Very interesting. This is, I answer this question in a very contrarian way. I answer this question in a very, it doesn't sound cajoling. It sounds very, but I would really like if somebody got inspired by what I'm going to say next. So Amit, आप देखिए हमारा देश मोटा 1.5 billion people. Okay, and keep in context that I am 4 days old from a visit to India's ruralist of ruralist places. I traveled 5 days in Bihar, and I do it so that I can talk very confidently in such meetings. And I spent my own 5 days, right? This is a lot of 5 days. If I ask you one more night, I don't think you will have it. But let's say, 5 nights in Begusarai and, Darbhanga and Madhubani and Mithila and Muzaffarpur. I don't even think half your audience can. Somebody who is from Bihar is going to be, smiling right now, but the others are going to say, "Ha, naam suna hai." But they're far away. Even the people from those regions have not spent time in their region. Whatever the reasons are, people are busy. मोटा 1.5 billion लोग हैं हमारे देश में. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Almost 400 million people in our country are below the age of 15, and about another 50 million are above the age of 80. Can I, for the sake of this conversation, just remove them, not from our progress and development, just remove them from digital for a second. Just remove them from digital. Fair? मोटा इंडिया में आज 1 बिलियन लोग डिजिटली savvy हैं या डिजिटली savvy हो सकते हैं. Okay, others are too old or too young. We don't want our children with phones and stuff like that. Though I'm coming back from a state where everybody is on the phone. Now, just tune into me. 1 billion people, and we have almost 900 million smartphones. So if somebody asks me, Amit, if you were to ask me, how will you bridge the divide? My first answer to you is, boss, 90% of this country is on the internet. The useful 90%. When I say useful, I mean the ones who really need the internet for progress. Now, look at that number. That number is not 20, 30, 60, 70, what people think. I'm going on a limb and saying it's probably above 95%. Okay? Some people don't allow, old people and children to have phone or bhi kar sakte hain. I'm just simply saying the divide is actually almost vanished. And I've been saying this for a year now. Now I'm completely believing it. Ab sochiye 2 minute ke liye, I'm coming from a town where somebody in Muzaffarpur on the way to Madhubani in a TVS showroom ordered a bathroom में जो रैक होता है ना जिसमें आप शैम्पू वगैरह रखते हो वो रैक, he bought it on Meesho, which got delivered to his village in Motabari, and I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I will show you in a second, and उसका मैं आपको पिन कोड दिखा देता हूं. That pin code is some 854321. It is 1 hour away from the border of Nepal. He used his phone to order from Meesho. So my पहला सवाल है कि कोई remote रह ही नहीं गया. Mostly the word remote India, marginalized, underprivileged people, if you look at it from my eyes, they have the same phone and they have the same network with the same apps that you and I are using. I wish I could show you my report online and show you some examples. And you can go to my tweet if the world can see. Last I just tweeted about 2 hours back the cover of the where the guy is spending 4 hours on Instagram. So my question to you actually is the reverse. I actually feel if any of your developers wants to help a billion Indians do something, this is the only country he or she is able to. I will give you the contrarian view. This is the only country where Aadhaar can be identified for a billion people and you get a legitimate entry OTP into your platform. Nobody else is good. So I think we are somewhere as a country, हमें कई सालों से जो आदत पड़ी हुई है to just to because we were undernourished as a country, we were underprivileged, we have had so many issues of whatever we've had, all sorts of things, right? But the ability for this country to be innovative, we've almost leapfrogged the landlines again. Think about it. India's stack is to what landlines leapfrogging was to us when we went to mobile. And therefore, I've been saying that maybe some other country, there is France doing a good job, there is Singapore, Philippines, we work with all these places, UAE, we are off to Cyprus and Geneva next month. These countries are leapfrogging us also on India stack. But they came to the party last year. They didn't take 10 years. So we are actually saying, wow, they've leapfrogged us also because, we leapfrogged them and obviously they are coming now, they leapfrog us. So this is life and it's beautiful, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let's moving on. What strategies do you believe are crucial for fostering collaboration between tech innovators, policymakers, and social entrepreneurs to make the potential of generative AI real within the India stack, Jess?
So, we constantly invite people to be part of our conversation. The smallest real answer is just get involved. We are all available as iSpirit has at one point 150 volunteers. At any point, we are 20 people. At any point, we are sitting with the policy body. We are with the government. We are in an accelerator. We are with Google every other day. So, like you, I think Indian developers, innovators, startup guys have to be more visible. See, unfortunately, the valley is valley, right? वो 100 किलोमीटर के दरमियान में जो होता है वो बहुत पावरफुल है. हमारे यहाँ वैली बहुत ज्यादा दिल्ली की अलग वैली है, बैंगलोर की अलग है, बॉम्बे की अलग है, चेन्नई ने सैस की वैली बना ली है, which is beautiful. It's all gorgeous, but we are not concentrated, and therefore we are everywhere, and that's great. So I just insist people who want to innovate and work with policy or government or people or do very new age stuff, they should just reach out. There's just so much available in public domain to innovate on. I mean, for example, you're doing this hackathon. जो जीतेगा उसको कुछ तो significant advantage मिलेगा, right? From the others. So again, these are actually the answers. People underestimate what you are doing, Amit, and what Google is doing. They should not underestimate. There are chances that one of these hackathon winners is going to land on our page with you. And there's chances that we will guide them to build the next technology. Not chances, I'm almost saying 80%, 90% chances, which is very high in a startup world. So I just encourage, Amit, people to, they shouldn't take these things for granted कि आज हम एक Google एक hackathon कर रहा है. They should get serious. There is gold lying on the other side.
Amazing. Just another on a different track, considering your background and passion for public policy and technology, how do you navigate the regulatory landscape concerning generative AI and overall the tech landscape in India, the regulatory landscape, I mean?
So, this is also very interesting. I think you have to understand the regulatory landscape in the whole world follows disruptors. The regulation, agar disruptor se pehle aa jata, to I don't think the world will be a better place, right? I mean, the amount of lawsuits against Uber, I remember reading their second raise, which was about $150 million. If you read that now also, it says $50 million for lawsuits. So, they knew कि इतनी टैक्स एसोसिएशन उनके अगेंस्ट हो जाने वाली है कि उन्होंने 50 मिलियन तो सिर्फ लॉसूट्स के लिए रखा, which means the regulator was not with them. They were going to fight them. I think that's very powerful metaphor. I think you see the final regulator is the consumer. If you can show that you have a product market fit of certain abilities, India, I think, is the best regulatory framework. हमारा जो मार्केट है ना हमारे देश की बहुत खराब है. जो समझ जाता है वो सीधा ही फिर $1 billion कंपनी बनाता है, right? So you have to weave India out. You know, the government has never ever been this open to startups, ever. You know, you can walk into a government organization and say, tell me your regulation on healthcare, and they'll be able to show you a white paper. You can walk into the transport ministry and say, am I allowed to run taxis? They'll say, ye raha white paper. I mean, for motorcycle taxis, there's different. You know, my friend Sanjeev Sanyal and I, we've written this AI ka thought process. You know, AI, we wrote that 4 years back, 3 years back. So I'm just simply saying there is just so much regulatory support available in this country. You just make the first step. I mean, a perfect example is where the DPDP Act, which is, you know, the Digital Privacy Act. I mean, we passed it last year in August in the Parliament. You know, our president signed it in August, first week or second week. But the point is, the first time we passed a regulation before innovation, but we knew we had to pass it, so it's going to get passed. So till startup innovators and disruptors don't show their face on the table of the regulators, regulator has no incentive to do regulation. तो वो तो किसी को हाथ खड़ा करना ही पड़ेगा.
Interesting. Thank you. Moving on, Jess, the other question I have for you, and this is sort of the last question, is about how generative AI can enhance the efficiency and transparency of government services. So think of public welfare programs, and how can they be enhanced using generative AI as part of the India Stack ecosystem?
Okay, I'm going to give you a very pertinent example which will answer this question in 1 second. COVID हुआ.
Yep.
COVID से पहले इंडिया के पास, India had 40,000 vaccine centers. That means polio, बच्चों का tetanus. You understand? Vaccine centers. Everybody, every tehsil, every village has a local vaccine center. India had how many? 40,000 vaccine centers. Suddenly, COVID happened. Now, in COVID, we had to vaccinate almost 900 million people. Fair? Coven ya whatever that, forgetting the other name. Thank God I'm forgetting it. So we had 2 vaccines. Let's say 900 million Indians had to be vaccinated. Is that a fair question?
Yeah.
And we had to do it quickly. Okay. And we had to vaccinate 900 million people twice. You know that? वो 60 दिन का 30 दिन का जो break था. You all, I know people will get jitters. I'm also getting it, but I don't forget those days. Okay. Now 40,000 vaccination centers. Question to you: how many vaccine centers did India add overnight? 40,000 more, 1 lakh more, 6 lakhs more. How many vaccination centers did we put?
Take a guess and say 6 lakhs more.
Okay. Is there a poll here? I want to make sure how many people can. So you said 6 lakhs more. Let me give you the answer. We added
0.
We added 0 vaccine centers. You can Google this. We added 0. Why? We sent update on using Aadhaar to Amit's mobile to turn up on the vaccine center at 6:07 and leave at 6:11 and wait in the holding area till 6:19. We vaccinated 900 million into 2. 0 vaccine center added. So what I'm trying to tell you is, this is an example when your infrastructure of the country is laid out, your abilities become very high. And I've said that in a deck called, हमने जब यूपीआई आधार बनाया तो वो हमारी abilities लगा रहे थे हम देश की. आज हम agilities पे पहुंच गए. आज हम कुछ भी एक रात में कर सकते हैं. आज अगर GSTN का रेट बदल के लोगों को कलेक्ट करना, that's such a politically charged statement. Okay, let me say it in a better way. Let's say we have to remove 1% of GST for the country. I'm saying it in a better way now. सबका 18% से हम services goods को we want to bring it down to 17%. Tell me, how long will it take for this country to do that? 5 lines of code, right? So give or take, generative AI, we don't even have to write that code. We probably have to speak to a bot and say, GSTN ka code dhoond ke 1% kam kar do. Maybe that will also work thanks to Gemini. It'll work, right? You know that. But this is the answer, that country has already shown that. We've already done that multiple times over. And please keep in mind, we are India of 2024. We've just arrived here. हमारे लिए तो अभी दरवाजे भी खुले हैं, right? I mean, 10 साल 15 साल पहले भी, we were we had so many places where we had were not existent, right? आप न्यूक्लियर पावर ले लीजिए, आप ट्रांसपोर्ट ले लीजिए, स्पेस ले लीजिए, आप मोबिलिटी ले लीजिए, आप फोन ले लीजिए, कहाँ थे यार 5-10-15 साल पहले? बैंगलोर ट्रैफिक notwithstanding, we've made the country go into a very different agilities. Today we are able to do a lot of things at ease. हाँ, वो गवर्नमेंट की एक वेबसाइट नहीं चलती, ठीक करने के लगे हुए हम सब लोग. हाँ, उसका यूएक्स खराब है, वो मैं पहले ही बोल दूंगा बिफोर यू से इट. हाँ, वो कभी ओटीपी कभी कभी नहीं आता, बट वी आर अ लार्ज कंट्री यार, वी आर अ वेरी वेरी लार्ज डिफिकल्ट कंट्री, एंड आई थिंक we'll get there very soon, if not already.
Perfect. I think we should just open up for Q&A as well to our audience. So folks, should send your questions our way. Okay, here's the first question, Jess.
Sure.
Is it true that it is true that India has huge amounts of data, but it is also owned by huge companies or the government? How do we expect a small startup or developer starting now to utilize them or access them?
हाँ, तो इसका मैं बहुत ही सीधा जवाब दूंगा. आपको कौन सा डेटा चाहिए मुझे ईमेल कर दीजिए. अदरवाइज एवरीथिंग विल लुक मतलब कोई हवा में बात नहीं है. आप जिस डेटा की बात कर रहे हैं जो आपको एक्सेस चाहिए और वो पब्लिक डोमेन में है और बड़ी कंपनियों को दिया गया. टुडे वी हैव द रेगुलेशन टू डू कॉन्फिडेंशियल क्लीन रूम्स, वी हैव द वे टू डू अनोनिमाइजिंग डेटा, वी हैव द वे टू डू पैटर्न रिकॉग्निशन वी हैव अ सिमेट्रिक टेक्नो लीगल फ्रेमवर्क कि अगर वो डेटा लीक होता है तो उसकी पेनल्टी ज्यादा है बट लेने की पैसे कम है. अगर आपको डेटा चाहिए मैं 1 सेंट में दे दूंगा, अगर आपने लीक कर दिया तो आपसे मैं $1 बिलियन निकाल लूंगा. ये सब इंडिया में फिक्स्ड है. तो अगर आपको इसके बारे में समझना है, इफ यू वांट टू नो मोर, प्लीज डू Gemini/Google before writing that email to me, but it is available.
Excellent. Simple answer. Just there's a nice question here. What is India Stack in a nutshell?
Hi, Rabba. So India Stack is a layer of technology stacks which talk to each other in a privacy first controlled environment to deliver public services. So अगर आप ढूंढना चाहते हैं कि अमित ने अपना आधार कब यूज किया, आप ये ढूंढ सकते हैं आधार कल यूज किया कि नहीं. ये नहीं ढूंढ सकते उनका घर कहाँ है, उनकी एज क्या, उनका नाम क्या है. और अब डिजी यात्रा में आपको ढूंढना है कि कितने लोग बैंगलोर एयरपोर्ट में आज अंदर आए, वो कर सकते हैं, बट ये नहीं ढूंढ सकते कि अमित बैंगलोर एयरपोर्ट में अंदर आए. So that ability to keep your data and your algorithm separate and that ability to govern this is in many ways a sense of India Stack.
Perfect. Are there any specific sectors within the India Stack framework where generative AI can have more significant impact in the near future? Which sectors do you think are ripe for disruption?
Oh, what a question, man. I know we are writing a mobility stack, which I missed out by saying, the whole EV battery will have to have a stack because, just like petrol pumps, you understand, we'll need a national stack so that any car can not be, left alone on the highway. So there is clearly mobility stack coming. There is a lot of work obviously on DAPA itself, which is a data stack, the data marketplace. We call it the data marketplace stack, जहां बहुत नए incumbent जो बिल्कुल technology related है, they have a lot of play in that to become these intermediaries or what is called the data provider, play a role between the data provider and data consumer and create those rooms, manage them. I wouldn't use the word blockchain, but in a decentralized manner. So decentralization is a very big thing. I think India Stack is completely decentralized. Think about it that way. DEPA uses a decentralized philosophy first. So that's a lot of space in that. I think food security, lastly, climate, all these are brilliant. I mean, wouldn't I love to know somebody of your person working on a climate tech, which I can make them into a DPI, which is a digital public infrastructure, which is India Stack. I mean, raise your hand and come to me. I would love to see those.
Excellent. We have time for one more question, Jazz. So let's take the last one. How can generative AI be leveraged within the India Stack for digital inclusion, given the linguistic and cultural diversity of India?
Very good question, close to my heart. So, पहले तो ज्ञान दूंगा, स्टोरी सुनाऊंगा, फिर उसके बाद जवाब दूंगा इफ यू में, अमित. तो देखिए, सवाल आपको पूछ रहा हूं अमित बिकॉज कोई और दिख नहीं रहा है. ये बताइए कि मधुबनी और मिथिला और पूर्वांचल, जहां से आपकी मिर्जापुर की जो सीरीज आपने देखी है शायद, गन टॉटिंग इफ आई मे से सो, टेल मी व्हाट is the average kid, 20-year-old, 25-year-old, I'm not saying younger, watching? You must have a mental model of somebody living in Purvanchal, northern Bihar, close to the West Bengal, Nepal border. Tell me what language they are watching their movies or whatever. What content are they absorbing? Throw me 4 languages.
भोजपुरी, हिंदी, इंग्लिश.
बहुत. तो आप लिख लीजिए, हमें भोजपुरी मिला
0.
कैन यू बिलीव दैट? हमें मिला तमिल मूवीज डब्ड इन हिंदी, मलयालम मूवीज, ये एक नहीं, आई ऑलवेज से डिजिटल देश इज यूजेस अ लॉट ऑफ एग्जैजरेटेड ओपिनियंस. अगर हमें 4 लोग भी मिल गए ना जो तमिल मूवी देखते हैं, वी से ये तो सच्चाई है, बिकॉज 4 is truth for us. For me personally, 5 people doing something which I never expected, I'm saying this openly, I tweet, is truth. Because the way we go and find digital Desh behaviors is we coexist with, we unguard Amit, because Amit will be guarded, no, he'll say sir मैं तो सिर्फ अच्छी वेबसाइट्स देखता हूँ, but we all know the word. तो can you believe that? Now ये पहला आपको इनपुट था. अब 20 साल के लोग और क्या देख रहे हैं अभी बताऊंगा आपको. के पॉप. अब वो भोजपुरी में नहीं देख रहे हैं. सो इसमें एक अच्छी खबर है, एक बुरी खबर है. बुरी खबर है कि क्या हमारी एक ही जनरेशन में आर वी लूजिंग आवर डायलेक्ट्स एंड लोकल लिंगो? Absolutely. That's why I think I'm an investor in Stage, which does local lingo, OTT. We are. There is possibility that we would have eroded a fair bit of our, centuries old cultural linguistic legacy in a very short time. There is absolutely a reality there. And maybe we've actually done fairly well on it because of the last few years where everybody's, going back to their roots online. People, there is family time coming back in some ways. I don't know if you would agree with me, but there has been a certain, back to, tradition in India, right? There's certainly a little back. Luckily, thoda bach gaye. But the point I'm making is, there is going to be a large non-scalable but large set of people जो अभी भी भोजपुरी अपने बच्चे को पढ़ा रहे हैं. Unfortunately वो अमेरिका में बैठे हैं, वो unfortunately भी बिहार में नहीं बैठे. But can you make a auto Bhojpuri? I have a company called Gov Tech, does auto dubbing. Can you still create Bhojpuri content? Absolutely. Because content तो लोग 8 घंटे देख ही रहे हैं, तो 7 घंटे अगर K-pop देखेंगे और तमिल मूवी देखेंगे, 1 घंटा फिर भी भोजपुरी देख लेंगे. तो कंटेंट ही उनके वर्थ अवेलेबल नहीं है. It's not worth their time because the content quality is fighting other languages. Are you getting me? The content quality is fighting, not the content. So they are, unfortunately, the algorithm, they are fighting an algorithm. आपने एक एल्गोरिथम कार का देख लिया हिंदी में, तो अगले 10 वीडियो कार के ही आएंगे हिंदी में. वो एल्गोरिथम है इंस्टाग्राम का, वो जेमिनी का एल्गोरिथम है. दैट्स अनफॉर्चुनेट, राइट? बट आई बिलीव we are in the final 10 years or maybe lesser of a generation who's going to make a business case out of these losing languages and will make money out of this in an effective manner. And we will probably, I don't know why we need to survive those languages, but my heart says we shouldn't lose them. So I've not found the logical answer, but I think we should protect them because, it's taken like 2,000, 5,000 years for a language to come and, gone in 10 years, gone in 15 years. So kahin dar lagta hai ki, I don't know what the outcome is, but I'm just unhappy that if that is happening. So I think linguistic platforms which use AI have the highest possibility, because all you have to do is send that same machine learning algorithm on Bhojpuri. It'll learn and it'll create content, hopefully of good quality that people are seeing. So if that answers, yes, generative AI is going to absolutely is doing bridging the gap of language barriers, because nobody's, again, another good point for you, Amit. We have also surpassing typing as a country. वॉइस नोट्स, इंडिया में वॉइस नोट्स हो गए हैं। तो मैं अगर तुझे पंजाबी में बोला, ओए अमित राती खाना की खाना है, ये चल रहा है। ये नहीं चल रहा है अमित यू वांट गो आउट फॉर अ ड्रिंक, वो बिहार में नहीं चल रहा है, आई एम सॉरी, पंजाब में। और तंदूरी रोटी खानी है आज, आर यू फॉलोइंग मी? सो आई रियली फील dialects and voice notes have saved a fair bit of technology, and that's going to spurn or give innovation to local dialects, because people are realizing they want to, stick to their roots, and therefore that's a big opportunity from a business perspective, not from a cultural anthropological perspective. Oh no.
Very well summarized, Jess. I think generative AI can help content producers in any language produce better content, and that obviously will bridge the gap. I think just very well summarized. Okay, time to summarize and close. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Hope you found the session insightful. Join in for more such exciting industry speaker sessions and technical workshops that we have planned for you coming up. On that note, please stay tuned for the upcoming session, which is a technical workshop on deep dive into embeddings and vector databases and enhancing developer efficiency with Gemini Code Assist. Also, if you haven't registered for the hackathon as yet, please find the registration link in the chat box. Thank you and have a great day. Jess, thank you so much for joining us. Amazing talking to you after a while. You haven't changed. The humor remains the same. The insights remain the same, and your ability to say things in a simple way that a common man can understand is just amazing. Thank you so much,
I'm sorry,
Jess.
but did you say insights remain the same? Yeah.
No, I meant in your insightfulness remains the same.
Ha, and I just want to make sure everybody gets that. This is developer community. They want fun. That's one thing I've learned. So good.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Is my screen visible okay?
I am not able to see the screen yet. I am just able to see the banner.
The welcome screen?
Yes. It's just the banner. I mean, I'm not able to see your presentation till now. You might have to share it again.
Okay, it shows stop sharing. Okay, now I stopped sharing. Now I'll again share the screen. Here's my PPT and I say share.
Yep. Now it's loading. Yeah, we have it.
Okay, so is it in the presentation mode or you also see the presented slides?
I can just see the presented slides, not the presenter mode.
How about now? Still the same?
Still the same, just the slide.
Okay, let me just navigate through the slides. Is it okay navigating?
Yes, perfect.
What is semantic search?
What is semantic search? Yeah.
Search that we have known conventionally and so on.
Yep.
Okay, now back to slide one. It's okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So I am ready. Sorry, I have already moved into the screen full screen mode, so I can't see if anyone is commenting or so. So Varun, I might need your help with that.
Sure.
So just let me know once we get a go ahead and I'll start talking about.
We can start.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone to the GenAI Exchange Hackathon by Google, supported by Métis Startup Hub and Startup India in partnership with startups, enterprises, and VCs. Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't registered for the hackathon yet, please find the registration link in the chat box. I hope yesterday's session on prompt engineering and Google Imagine was helpful. Today we will be deep diving into embeddings and vector databases. So here I am Tushar. I am customer engineer in data management at Google Cloud, and I'll be hosting the first session of this workshop. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the session. I'll do my best to address them at the end of the second session, which Varun will be presiding over. So let's get started. Now, understanding the terminologies that power the real world contextual searches is very important. Over the next few slides, I'll cover semantic search, embeddings, and vector databases, and how, in a combined fashion, they provide the contextual search and power the relevant use cases. Now, what is semantic search? Semantic search, by definition, is a revolutionary approach to information retrieval that aims to understand the meaning and intent. The emphasis being on meaning and intent behind your search queries, going beyond simple keyword matching. Think of it like this. Traditional search engines primarily focus on finding documents that contain the exact words you typed. Semantic search, on the other hand, delves deeper into understanding and considering the context of those words, what has been asked, their relationships with each other, and the overall intent of your search. To put it in more perspective, in a better way, the search that we have known conventionally, right? In traditional IT systems, most data is organized as structured or tabular data, the relational databases, using simple keywords, labels, and categories in databases and search engine. This has been the foundation of the user experience you would have with the usual IT systems for retrieval and recommendation. So essentially, it is value centric search based on operators like equal to, less than, greater than, and so on. Now, if we have to search for unstructured information, so just taking the context of the box that you see on the right, I like driving cars and motorbikes. In second sentence, I say I am a motor vehicle enthusiast. And third one, which is like very tangential, my dad owns a farm, right? Now, if I have to group the faces or these three faces with similar meaning, how do I do that? With our natural understanding and our processing, phases 1 and 2 are almost identical, while phase 3 has a completely different meaning. Now, why 1 and 2 are similar? Because they talk about cars, motorbikes, vehicle, automobile, and they are sort of relatable in a certain manner. Whereas the third one has no commonalities with it, right? So this is, instead of simply matching keywords, semantic search uses vector embeddings to understand the meaning space of your query and retrieve the most relevant phrases, even if they don't contain the exact words, right? So you can see between phrase 1 and phrase 2, the vehicle word is only in the second phrase, not in the first one, but still we can feel and understand that they are related. So that's where the word semantic and embeddings come into picture, right? So in a nutshell, there are multiple dimensions when it comes to semantics and contextual search. So it's as simple as that. Tell me a person who is like me. Now, like me can have multiple meanings and dimensions to it. It can be age, it can be job, it can be worth, it can be the place I live, and so on. So there are so many dimensions around which the similarity could be found, and we have to also have relevance in our finding. So here we go into vector embeddings. Let's look at the definition of it. So vector is a mathematical object which has both magnitude and direction. So the two important uh, angles to it, the magnitude and direction. Now, what is vector embedding? It is a specific type of vector that is used to represent any kind of data, which could be number, it could be text, or it could be images. Yeah. So there are different types of embeddings that we come across in our day-to-day dealings with technology. It could be image embeddings, it could be graph embeddings, it could be audio embeddings, it could be video embeddings, right? Okay. Now, taking the concept a bit further, for AI use cases, three dimensions are insufficient. So if I just go back to my example, like find me a person like me, I spoke about so many dimensions, right? Age, gender, worth, and so on. So there could be many. So essentially, it says that we need high dimensional vectors where each dimension contains semantic meaning. I have labeled this image as sort of n-dimensional vector because there's not no good way for us to visualize high dimension vectors. This is usually a visualization of an embedding space, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so we live in a three-dimensional world, so it's hard for us to intuitively understand objects with arbitrarily large number of dimensions. Now, a quick thought exercise. Look for a moment at any object in your field of view. Your laptop, your cell phone, whatever it has. It has three dimensions: height, width, and depth. Now, try to imagine the object you are looking at, which actually has 10,000 dimensions. Okay. And it's our job to compare each of those 10,000 dimensions to 1 billion other such objects that each again has 10,000 dimensions individually. And then tell which of those billion objects are the most similar to each other. Now, this is something if you have to do in a second, it's like nearly impossible, right? So that's basically what we do every time we ask Google Lens. I hope you know the word and the product to find similar images to the one we just uploaded. I just belabored this point because it's the scale and performance demands of these dimensional vectors that make these vector databases necessary. Traditional databases simply aren't designed to perform that function, just like humans aren't designed to pursue n-dimensional space. Okay, now what are embeddings? Embedding is a mathematical representation that we just saw, right? Now, just to kind of dig deep dive into it, all embeddings are vectors, but not all vectors are embeddings. Okay, I'll repeat it again. All embeddings are vectors, but not all vectors are embeddings. A vector becomes an embedding when the numbers within a dimension contain semantic meaning. An embedding is a compact vector representation of the principal components of a large object, the most important attributes of the object. It's an easy way of representing very complex objects in a low dimensional space. For example, millions of pixels in an image can be represented by just 1024 floating point numbers by using an embedding algorithm. This makes it easier to index complex objects and to find other objects that are similar. Examples of data that an embedding can represent includes words in a document, pixels in an image, or sound waves in an audio file. Yeah. Now, if we go through this example, just to kind of put it in better perspective, I love this product. I color code it as green, as in a positiveness. This product makes my life so easy. Again, a positive sentiment, so green. This product arrived damaged, blue. The color code has changed and the sentiment as well. So you can imagine, right? The dimensions or the embeddings or the vectors, they are represented using certain numbers and a certain color code, right? So as you can see on the scale, there is sentiment and there is satisfaction, right? So depending on whether it is positive or negative, there are some numbers getting associated with it, which will be used for relating or comparison. Okay, now here's a closer look at the embeddings graph on the previous side. These are real embeddings generated by word embedding model. The values in the vector represent the semantic meaning of the phrase. As I said, I love this product. This phrase is associated with a semantic concept of positiveness, okay, emotion, and product, which is why the embedding for I love this product has positive value for those dimensions. The embedding for this product makes my life so easy is again associated with the semantic concepts of positive, easy, and life. The embedding for the third one, which is the product arrived damage, is associated with the concepts of negative, damage, and product. In this example, we have given semantic association to each dimension. When learning embeddings, the individual dimensions are not actually learned with names. Sometimes you can look at the embeddings and assign semantic meanings to the dimensions, and at other times we cannot. In the latest case, the dimension is called a latent dimension as it represents a feature that is not explicit in the data but rather is inferred from it. Ultimately, it is the distance between items in the embedding space that are meaningful rather than a single item's value along any given dimension. Okay, embeddings have no meaning in isolation. They are just little lists of numbers until you position them within an embedding space, or also called as latent space. An embedding space defines the boundaries of the multidimensional area where embeddings have meaning relative to the distance between one other. The embedding space allows us to compare embeddings with each other and to find objects that are similar or dissimilar. In the graphic on the right, you can see a visualization of 8 million Stack Overflow questions grouped with similar questions close together and dissimilar questions spaced apart. The smaller the distance between the embeddings within an embedding space, the more similar they are, which is a practical way of looking at it. Embedding space, continuing with it, let's solidify the concept of embeddings and embedding space by building on our previous example with a few more product reviews. You can see that the positive and negative reviews are pretty cleanly grouped together. The positive ones in the top right and negative ones in the bottom left. Each vector embedding has a certain number of dimensions, which can range from tens to thousands, depending on the complexity and granularity of the data. Here we are using just 5 dimensions for the sake of simplicity. So what would you expect to happen when we add a neutral review? Worth thinking? Let's see. The neutral review naturally lands more towards the center of the embedding space, wherein we have positive at the top right and the negative sentiments at the bottom left. This sits somewhere in between. You can see how this would be useful for a slew of use cases. For example, is this review positive or negative? How similar are these two photos? If a customer likes the things represented by this vector, what other vectors or things are similar that I can recommend? So recommendation comes into picture. Is the vector unlike any other vectors in the embedding space, whether it is an outlier? So if you try to relate with a use case in real world, say for example, fraud detection. Yeah. So to summarize, an embedding is a vector wherein each dimension contains semantic meaning. That vector is collection of numbers that represent an object's most important features, and it can be used to group similar objects closer together and dissimilar features apart from each other within an embedding space or the latent space, as we saw. Okay, now the $1,000,000 question, how do we create embeddings? Now that we understand what embeddings are, but then the larger question is, how do we come up with numbers that contain the semantic meaning? The positive numbers, the negative numbers on that XY scale. Yeah. The good news is that we don't have to do it ourselves. There are a number of libraries and advanced models that will create the embeddings for you. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen, I have enlisted the text embedding API and the multi-modal embeddings API, which are available with our Gemini platform or Vertex AI. So the text embeddings API convert textual data into numerical vectors. These vector representations are designed to capture the semantic meaning and context of the words they represent. Similarly, the multimodal embeddings API generates vectors based on the input that one provides, which can include a combination of image, text, and video data. The embedding vectors can then be used for subsequent tasks like image classification or for video content moderation. Moving forward, the similarity part of it. How exactly is similarity measured between vectors? It's primarily a function of distance amongst the nearest neighbors. Now, if you recall the earlier slides, the one with similar sentiments or emotions were grouped together, right? Now, within that group, what is the distance, right? So there are, going with the figure that you see on the right, there are different bookshelves and color codes wherein we can see the similar color groups are kind of spaced together, and the pattern changes as we move from left to right or top to bottom. How are these distance metrics measured? Say, for example, Euclidean distance as the bird flies, shortest distance or path from point A to point B. Manhattan distance, again, something, let's say taxi cab distance, based on a grid, orthogonal moments only. Okay. Now, what is cosine distance? It's the angular distance. Arrows pointing in different directions. How apart are those angles from each other? And then there is another one, dot product distance, which is sum of products. The maths here is less important than the intuitive understanding of what this intense distances mean itself. Okay, now we have seen what are embeddings, what is semantic search, and what are vectors. Now, with those things covered, let's look at what are the vector databases and what are the things that are available further. Okay, now what exactly is a vector database? You can think of it basically as a long-term persistent memory for AI applications. Vector databases store data as compact, high-dimensional vectors, basically large array of numbers. They are typically used to store embeddings. So storage is compressed and optimized for high-performance vector similarity search using techniques like hashing, quantization, and graph hierarchy. This basically allows us to search an embedding space that contains millions or billions of vectors for similarity objects with sub-second latency. Okay, now as you can see, the use cases or applicability of vector databases is quite diverse. So vector databases are commonly used for recommendation systems to store and index user preferences, item features, and content similarity. Semantic search to index and search text documents for semantic similarity. Image search to index and search images for visual similarity. For example, the Google Lens chatbots and question answering systems to store and index content for a chatbot or question answering system. Also, a host of other use cases that have been listed on this slide, and the most important that I see is basically improving the accuracy of foundation models and to compensate for any kind of shortcomings based on like when the model was trained and so on. Those can be eliminated by using a database as a reference store for anything which has to do with the enterprise referential context and so on. Okay, now what are the different vector databases that Google Cloud Platform has made available to its users and customers? So as you can see, there is a wide array of databases, managed databases from Google that can be leveraged to store and use vector-based use cases. So we have in-memory store by name of memory store, which can be used for all memory-based caching and databases-based use cases to store vectors. In the relational category, we have Cloud SQL, wherein we have MySQL and Postgres available for storing the vectors. Similarly, AlloyDB, which is nothing but Postgres that has been added with lots of additional innovations and engineering features. Spanner, the distributed horizontal database, which is made available for planet scale applications. It also supports vectors. Key value database like Bigtable, it is also supporting the vectors. Firestore is a document database which also supports the vectors. BigQuery, the data analytics solution from Google, it also supports uh, storing vectors. And how do we leverage it? So where Vertex AI is a common delivery mechanism for using any and all features with respect to building generative AI applications and leveraging anything with respect to AI and ML on GCP. So one-stop shop for all the AI related operations. And as I just narrated, these are the different databases or data stores from Google Managed Portfolio that can be leveraged. Okay, and last but not the least, there is one native offering from GCP, which is called as Vertex AI Vector Search. It's fully managed cloud native solution for massive scale vector databases. It's built on the ANN algorithm that was released by Google in 2020, and it's called SCAN, SCANN. It is considered one of the best algorithms in the industry and also serves as a foundation for search and recommendation in major Google services such as Google Search and YouTube. With this, I would like to say thank you for your attention, and I'll now let Varun to take it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trushar. Just give me a second while I present my screen as well. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Trushar, for the most insightful session on vector spaces, embeddings. I'd like to take it forward. Good evening, everyone. My name is Varun Mishra. I'm an app mod specialist C here at Google Cloud. I specialize in application modernization and helping businesses leverage the power of AI. And I'm thrilled to be hosting the second session of the workshop, which is enhancing developer efficiency with Gemini Code Assist. So, all of us know that we are in a new AI transformation era. Right? That means if you see, the era itself is revolutionizing nearly every facet of our lives, from healthcare and transportation to entertainment and education. AI is poised to bring immense benefits, but it also necessitates careful consideration of its ethical implications and responsible development. What it is also doing is that the landscape of software development is evolving rapidly because of the introduction of AI. Propelled by the transformative power of artificial intelligence, we are now entering a new era where AI is not just a tool, but a collaborative partner, augmenting developer capabilities and redefining what's possible. Gemini Code Assist sits at the forefront of this transformation, leveraging Google's cutting edge AI research to revolutionize how code is written, tested, and deployed. There's a lot of surveys happening around AI. One such, which I am presenting to you from Stack Overflow, highlights a growing desire amongst developers to incorporate AI into their workflows. So, what is it that engineers want AI to do today, right? And while the results are in front of you, we see that AI is already being used for tasks like writing code and debugging, but there's also a clear interest in expanding its application to areas like testing, documentation, and even project planning. This desire for greater AI integration underscores the need for intelligent tools like Gemini Code Assist that can actually address these emerging needs and empower developers to focus on higher level tasks. Okay? Now, Gemini represents a family of AI-powered products within the Google Cloud ecosystem. Right? It's not just limited to code assistance, but extends its capabilities to areas like application lifecycle management, software development, security, data analytics, business intelligence, and even database management, something that Trushar touched upon in one of the managed databases that we offer. This integrated approach highlights Google Cloud's commitment to infusing AI across its entire platform, which offers a comprehensive suite of tools that empower businesses to innovate faster and more efficiently. Now, going back to Gemini Code Assist, let's take a look at the SDLC use cases and how Gemini Code Assist can actually make the users more productive at each stage of your application development. Okay? Starting with the first one, designing. Right? Starting at the design stage, staying with the API first mindset, Gemini Code Assist can actually help developers to automatically generate API specifications and documentation from natural language description for any given service. From within the Cloud Code, which is an integrated API plugin for Cloud Code, it provides a seamless experience to convert natural language requirements into APIs. Right? For build and test stage, developers can find assistance in code completion from within an IDE as they are typing their code. Right? So they can use code generation, which converts natural language statements into complete code modules. In Gemini Code Assist, actually uses the context of the developer in the IDE and uses that to generate code snippets. Gemini Code Assist can also generate unit test cases for developers. And last but not the least, as the developers work on pieces of code they are not familiar with, Gemini Code Assist can actually help them to explain that particular part of the code. And they can actually see natural language explanation of the code that they were not familiar with to start with. Right? And this is for all the supported top programming languages. Right? Let's move to the third stage, deploy. Right? For deploying, Gemini Code Assist can actually help generate command line, Terraform scripts, Docker files, YAML files, etc. And these can be used as contextual suggestions to set up production environments. Now, as users operate their applications, users can retrieve how to knowledge about GCP infrastructure. Right? So we are now moving from deploy to secure. Once the application has been deployed, they can now monitor applications using powerful capabilities like PromQL generation, right? Or even log summarization. And again, all of this can happen in natural language. So you can ask for suggestions of what should be the next thing to do. Can I probably rapidly troubleshoot incidents, etc. The operation part, right? Using AI driven threat analysis, users can also analyze security issues, find threats, and do anything that requires them to investigate security incidents. And finally, scaling. Once the application is deployed, secured, of course, all of us want to scale our applications. Users can use Gemini Code Assist for scaling their application environments as their workload changes. So depending on the kind of traffic they're getting, depending on the kind of hits they're getting, this can definitely be scaled along with using the power of Google Cloud. Now let's dive into specific user journeys of what Gemini Code Assist can do. Right? The first one is AI code completion. So as you can see on my screen, this just goes beyond simple auto completion. Gemini understands the intent, the context, and the coding style to deliver highly accurate and context-aware code suggestions in real time. This means, as a developer, you'd spend less time typing boilerplate code and more time focusing on the logic and the innovation that make your application unique. As you can see in the example, Gemini is actually suggesting the entire line of code, including parameters, syntax, directly within the IDE. Just by typing, let's say, the comment or name of the function, you can actually get these inputs automatically. And this is supported, of course, across a wide range of popular IDs, as you can see on the left side. And we are, of course, working hard to add more and more IDs to this. This one, I think, is one of the most important, right? All of us want to work with open source software. Open source software is is kind of a cornerstone of modern development. But along with using open source, it is also important to ensure proper license attribution, and that can be a tedious and error-prone task. Gemini Code Assist simplifies this process by automatically flagging code suggestions that fall under specific licenses, providing developers with the necessary attribution information in real time. As you can see in on the screen, there's a yellow highlight that happens for any code that it finds, and in real time it can give you license citations. Okay? This ensures compliance with license terms and mitigating legal risks and promoting responsible open source usage. This one, I think, is a story that all of us have been together, right? We've all been here, encountering a piece of code in an unfamiliar code base and spending precious time deciphering its purpose. What is the need of this particular code block? Why was this written in the first place? Probably there are no comments that explain the need of that particular code, right? And navigating such unfamiliar code bases can be daunting. Gemini Code Assist provides a conversational way to understand code. As you can see on the screen, you can just highlight the particular code block or the entire file and ask Gemini to explain it. Now, this is an interactive way to understand what the code is. And then it allows for faster onboarding onto new projects and reduces the learning curve associated with the complex code bases. It's almost like having an experienced developer readily available to answer your questions and provide code walkthroughs. One of the most important things as part of the SDLC lifecycle is test cases, right, or testing our applications. And thorough testing is critical for delivering robust applications. And writing comprehensive unit test cases is crucial for ensuring code quality and catching bugs early on. Gemini Code Assist can help in this process by suggesting unit test plan based on the code being written. The developers can actually interact with the tool and they can refine these plans, cover edge cases, and achieve the most optimal test coverage. This collaborative approach to test generation helps ensure the robustness and the reliability of the software being developed. Right? So as easy as, again, talking to someone who can understand natural language but can give you suggestions based on the code that you're typing. Now, once the test plans are generated, right, Gemini Code Assist can go one step further. It can actually assist you into generating actual test code. How about that? Right? I'm sure all of us do not want to write unit test cases or spend too much time there. And that is where, again, Gemini for Code Assist can really help. This will eliminate the need for developers to write code, again, allowing them to focus on logic assertions specific to each test case. And by automating this repetitive task, Gemini Code Assist frees up valuable development time and ensures that the test suite remains up to date with evolving code base. Now, we've been adding more and more features to Gemini Code Assist, of course. And one of the features that we have launched is the code transformation, which is right now available in preview, but it is already, with code transformation, you can actually now go ahead and give natural language prompts to tell Code Assist to actually analyze, refactor, as well as optimize your code. So just like on the screen, it's more of like a smart action. You select you select the code that you want. There'll be an icon, and you can just say transform this code or optimize this code, right? So you don't even have to get away from the code that you're writing into a chat space that you see on the left. Rather, just select the code and just perform the action that you want. So that way, developers are not breaking the flow from developing the code by asking questions again and again. Right? And in code transformation, this will be possible. Right? Extended local context. Now, a key strength of Gemini Code Assist lies in the deep understanding of the code base, right? It just doesn't look at the current file that you are in. Rather, it can consider the entire broader context, including open tabs, the local folder structure, and even the project dependencies. This allows for more accurate and relevant code suggestions that take into account the overall project architecture and its dependencies. Now, while all of this sounds great, what or how many languages does it support? Right? So as you can see, we are already supporting all the top languages. Gemini Code Assist already has support for languages like Python, Golang, Java, JavaScript, Rust, Kotlin, and of course, we're continuously expanding this list and investing heavily in code customization, of course. Right? So currently we are supporting around 20 plus languages, and this number is only going to increase in the future. Now let's take a step back. You saw this slide I showed about SDLC, right? What about operating? What about deploying? How about troubleshooting stuff? Gemini for Code Assist actually extends and integrates very well with Gemini for Cloud Assist. That means if you've deployed your applications onto Google Cloud, you can actually use Gemini and start asking questions, start asking suggestions, or even start asking anything about operating your actual infrastructure through Gemini. So if you see this example, you're able to see that the streamlined workflow allows developers to act upon insights immediately, demonstrating the actual practical application of AI in optimizing cloud infrastructure. So if the screen is not too clear, it says, you're just asking Gemini, how can I do potential cost savings in Cloud SQL, right? And Gemini will immediately give you the answer. It'll not only just give you the answer, it'll give you an exact command that can be directly transported or transitioned into Cloud Shell, and running that command can actually bring the cost optimization that you need. And this one again, like I said, let's say the application is live, it's optimized, but of course, all of us will experience some problem or the other. Right? How about troubleshooting these problems? Do I need to go into difficult logs? Do I need to turn on debugs, etc., and then try and find the root cause, only to find something that is probably an error code that I'm not aware about. Right? That is where again Gemini will come to. Troubleshooting and debugging are critical aspects of a developer's life, and Gemini Cloud Assist will excel in this area by providing you contextualized log application. Again, the key being contextualized. It understands the meaning behind complex log messages, right? And offers clear explanations in plain English, making it easier even for junior developers to quickly identify and address issues. This example shows how easily a new engineer who's probably an on-call rotation can understand a complex log message, and with just a single click can understand, and Gemini will help it translate into a very natural language, and it can be just fixed immediately or at least troubleshooted immediately. Right? So in a nutshell, right, what we've seen, Gemini for Code Assist is a powerful tool that can help you at every stage in the SDLC lifecycle to bring in more efficiency, and think of it like more of a better or a more senior developer, a more senior operations team member that can help you with everything that you are writing, deploying, or even trying to understand when you're troubleshooting something. With that, I thank you for your time today. I hope this presentation has given you a glimpse into the transformative power of Gemini for Code Assist. This is just the beginning. We are constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI in software development. We believe that Gemini Code Assist will not only make developers more productive, but also empower them to create innovative and groundbreaking applications that were previously unimaginable. With that, I think I'll open the forum for questions, and I will have Trushar back on as well. So yeah, I think Trushar is here.
Yep, I
Hey Trushar, thank you for joining back. Okay, I think we have the first question, and that is, what is the difference between Vertex AI and Gemini? Uh, you want me to take it, Trushar?
yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. So Vertex AI is a larger platform. Gemini is one of our LLM models that is integrated into almost all the products and services that we offer. Like you saw, right? In Gemini for Code Assist, in Gemini Cloud, in databases, in even in the console, right? So there's a lot of Gemini that can actually help you as a uh, as your team member and come up and give you suggestions, recommendations based on all the services that you take. Vertex AI, on the other hand, is an entire platform that gives you multiple things that you can do. You have different models available, you have different services available, and you can actually go ahead and create an end-to-end model yourself using Vertex AI. Vertex AI also offers infrastructure as part of its offerings. So I hope that was clear. I think we have a second question as well, Trushar.
Yeah,
How are
I can
embeddings?
take that.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so embeddings, as I made you help understand, basically we convert it into multi-dimensional vectors. So it could be like 768 dimensions or 1000 dimensions or whatever, right? So essentially the text becomes an input, and the model that is responsible for, let's say, any kind of text embedding model is going to return you the set of embeddings. Now, whenever there is a time to, let's say, do a comparison, basically, let's say, any question that comes from a user as an input, that text, like what are the similar objects to this building? So that text is also going to get converted into embeddings using the same embedding model, right? And then there is a comparison that happens using the algorithms that I just briefly spoke about. So it could be cosine, it could be Euclidean distance, and so on. So essentially, the text gets converted in real time or dynamically into a embeddings, because comparison is not going to happen between embeddings and text. is going to happen between embeddings and embeddings using the same model, so that we are comparing apple to apple. Hope this helps.
Thank you, Trushar. One more question is Gemini Code Assist. Does it work with Java or for Java? Yes, it does. It works for Java. It works for JavaScript. There's actually 20 plus languages that we support. Um it does, and you can try it out. It just works. We have one more question. If Gemini AI creates test cases for any app out there, how is it going to create test as every user has a different style of using an app out there? Good question. Let me actually give you an insight, right? So that's why I said when I was trying to explain this part, I did mention contextual recommendations, and that is where it comes out, right? So it's not generally creating test cases for any app. It needs to have access to the app code, of course. So, for example, when you are creating your own app, and if there is, let's say, an application that whether you've created manually or using Gemini, and you don't have test cases for that, Gemini can logically have a look at the code and sort of give you suggestions on what the suggested test cases should be. It could be test plan or it could be actual test code, and that is how it will go ahead and create tests, right? More or less, this would not be sort of different styles of testing. Rather, you can ask it to be it'll be all logical tests that it creates. So based on the code, let's say if your application is about login, so it'll give you test cases like, would you be just go ahead and put in the wrong password or a wrong username? That could be a negative test case. Go and put the right username. That could be a positive test case, so on and so forth, right? So it'll understand the code first, and based on that it'll go ahead and give you the suggestions. I hope that is useful. Yeah, Tushar, back to you for the next one.
Okay, so I'll just read out the question. How are documents stored as embeddings? If a text query from user is more similar to a section's content in the document, but because other sections in the document are different, they may not align. Okay, an interesting question. So I again go back to the basics. Whatever text, okay, so document is a text document, assuming we start with that. Okay, so for all the text that is present in that document, we are going to create embeddings. Now, by definition, embedding ensures that the contextual meaning of not just that single word, but how it kind of becomes a part of a statement, okay, is going to be stored. So it's like not just having a relevance for that particular one sentence, but what that particular section means, right? Because at the end you may want to do some sort of summarization, some sort of classification based on the what you call the interpretation of that document, right? So it's going to make sure that what I am asking is going to be relevant in that context only. Okay, so essentially, we are going to kind of make a sense of what I am asking, and then it kind of returns back. So even if there are matching words, okay, like what is the name, or what is the height of this building, kind of, right? So these are like two different questions. So while the words might repeat, the meaning or the intent is different. So based on intent, the LLM is going to ensure the vector embedding search. The vector embeddings are going to be searched in that way, and it will just retrieve the information that makes the most sense to it in terms of like the approximate nearest neighbor, right? The ANN that we talk about. So that's how it kind of does the retrieval of the most relevant things. And then we can always kind of put an order to it that give me just related or the most closest three responses or two responses. So there's an order of stacking to it. Like the most relevant will be the closest, and then the other ones will be a bit farther. And that's how it works.
Thank you, Tushar. And I think the last question is by iBlog Sassy. There's a question that says, how can we create test data or synthetic bulk data for testing? Interesting question. Trushar, don't you think we have some amazing audience asking interesting questions?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so yes, to answer, we yes, you can create test data technically, you can just, based on the code that you have and the sort of test cases and test plans that you are writing, you can actually go to the chat window in Gemini for Code Assist and start asking also to create some sample data, right? Once, if you want to get a more clear or a more close result, like the exact sort of test data you want, you can create like one sample file or a sample JSON or whatever kind of data you have, and then also ask Gemini to create that sort of data by giving like an example, and that again you can ask it to create that in bulk or the amount of volume that you want. So interesting question. Yes, it is possible. You might have to try different prompts. You might have to give like a sample example data of what you exactly need, and it can do that for you. I hope this is useful. I think with that, I think that was the last question we had, Trushar. Once again,
Okay.
thank you for your insights on the wonderful session that you gave. I hope this has been useful. Please feel free to post your questions. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us, and you take
Thank you.